Anytime we're ready.
Boys and girls, oh my goodness, we are at the Shrine. The Shrine with Mr. Tom Burke. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very, very special guest, Mr. Tom Burke. Mr. Burke, it's a pleasure.
Mr. Don, it's such a pleasure seeing you again. Can I ask you one question, Mr. Don?
Oh, please do.
How the hell do you stay nice and trim when I got all this? COVID wasn't nice to me, believe me. But that's beside the point.
I drink a lot of this, and I run around like a jackass at the shows.
Maybe I should start drinking Mountain Dew and not the beer. Okay. Anyways, Don, it's a pleasure having you visit again. If my memory is correct, this is our third visit.
It is our third visit, sir. Yes, it is.
And I am looking forward to this, as I always look forward to your visits. However, I will say this, and this will become at the end of the video and everything. Everybody that comes up here always signs my guest book. And you have not signed a guest book.
I know.
And that is my fault.
It makes me sad.
And probably maybe we got so involved and senior moments took over.
Yes.
And you trotted off.
Yes.
And I look around and boom, there's the guest book unsigned.
Unsigned.
But we are going to have you sign it in a great presentation on video. So it's not only going to be signed, but documented historically.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Anyways, let's get to the ball game.
That's what we love. Documentation, sir. Yes,
right, exactly.
Yes. Now, I don't want to waste all of our time, so I'm just going to go check. Okay, one-man band here.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to go check real quick, because if we were out of frame, that would really stink. Oh, my goodness, you're right there.
Okay.
Can I scoot this just
Sure, absolutely.
maybe a little bit over there?
Do what you want to do, kiddo.
You know, Mr. Burke, an honor. Now, boys and girls, before we get into anything, Mr. Tom Burke, a historian for many years, he has a career about him. And I'm going to do something I've never done. We've got a format today. But a wrestling historian with so much knowledge, it's an honor and a privilege to come through these doors. And I've shown the room before, and I'm going to probably maybe take a quick scan later on or whatever. But this room is amazing. Mr. Burke is amazing with his information, his time, his passion and knowledge for wrestling is off the charts like none other. And we go way deep. I mean, way back into the black and white days.
Long before cable.
Yes. That's what I like to call my... I say that to my mom. She was born BC before color. BC
before. I like that. I like that, Don. That's good. I got to remember that one.
But we are here because as he said, this is our third installment. But you know, I come off the cuff. We do on the fly stuff and all of that.
Yeah.
So I probably have missed many things to ask one Mr. Tom Burke. And that's what this layout is. This is a chicken scratch, if you will. We have some questions, and we're going to hang out and really get to know Mr. Burke, his past, his career, the current status, many things. We have many, many things to speak of.
A look at wrestling from my perspective.
Yes.
Past, present, and the future.
Because my perspective is run around like a jackass and have too much fun, and everything is a blur by the time the night is over. I don't remember shit, so I have to go back.
I've had those nights.
I have to go back on the footage and see some stuff.
Yeah.
But we are at the Shrine. Again, an honor and privilege. And if you want, we can just dive right into this little format.
Let's dive into the questions.
All right.
And then from there, I can expand upon it. And you're the host.
Oh.
Continue on, Mr. Dan.
Don, but that's okay.
Don. I just changed.
Mr. Burke.
It's like this, sir. You have a different persona today. Okay. Anyways, Mr. Kincaid, if you would be so generous to start.
I would love to, and I got one bit of business before we jump into this. Is that okay?
That's perfect. Right.
We're in the Brass City Devils. Which is combined.
I like the T.
Yeah, Ryan Frost and Big Jim Anderson. And the back, if you notice.
Oh, yeah.
It's got the memorialization for Big Jim.
Yeah.
You know? I've been wearing either the Big Jim memory shirt or the Brass City Devils at wrestling for the past probably month and a half.
Yeah.
We love our Big Jim. He has passed.
I know, that's a shame.
Yes, a couple months
Totally
back.
tragic. About 2 months ago.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then again, more recently, just about 2 weeks ago or so, we had the passing of Ian Griffin.
Right, Ian Griffin passed away.
Yeah,
I remember him. I saw him wrestle a number of times, and young guys.
Unexpected.
Yeah,
Again,
totally.
out of nowhere. So, before we did dive into this, I just wanted to pay my respects to those two men. Love you guys so much. You've always respected and loved me and let me do my thing with you guys. And being here with Mr. Burke, I wanted to make sure that we represented something special. You know,
Exactly.
I didn't want to wear anything. And again, I've been wearing these two shirts. This one in the gym to these shows lately. I don't know. I don't want to wear anything else. I feel like I'm not memorializing Big Jim, you know?
I perfectly understand.
Yeah.
It's a tribute to them, and not only as wrestlers, but as individuals, as men.
Yes, exactly.
And that's something we have to remember.
I wish I had an Ian Griffin shirt. I do not have that, though. But yes, I just wanted to kind of take a quick second for there. Love you guys so much. Love you, love you, love you. Oh, my heart. We're going to go into this, and now times have changed, Mr. Burke, since we've last spoken. Times have changed. And you mentioned the word COVID. I like to call it the canola, just to give it a little, a little spin on it. Now, COVID and wrestling has changed everything, even prices.
Oh, absolutely.
The ticket prices. Let's just jump right into that.
Okay, well, this whole COVID thing has changed, like you just said, Don, has changed everything in wrestling, and not only wrestling, but all over our society in general. But we're going to focus this on the wrestling aspect of it. Wrestling was down, closed up shop like that because of COVID, but it has reemerged, is resurrected to the point where I think it gave some of the promoters time to sit back and think out what their projects are going to be, what talent they're going to use. Maybe like weeding out a garden. You're going to pull out some, plant in some new talent and everything. But the COVID is nothing new overall. In an earlier century, we had the Spanish flu. This time we had the Chinese flu. And so it's what it is. But getting back to the wrestling point is that, I like Don had just mentioned, there has been an emergence of wrestling back, which people have been hungry for. Not only wrestling, but things in general and everything. So I think we have a new turn on wrestling and a new spirit that is going to involve seeing the recreation of wrestling that has been dormant for almost 2 years. So that aspect of it is a welcome. So maybe, even though COVID is negative, look at the positive side of it, where people thought about it and reevaluated their promotions, talking basically promoters and workers, and seeing how they could evolve into a different element and do something better.
I'd like to piggyback on that because as I've spoken through the COVID, I was doing interview after interview after interview. Some of them were almost like, I don't want to use it as a blessing, but it's kind of a blessing because I've been working so hard. My body's so beat. My mental stability needs a break.
Right.
I need to refresh myself, my physical self, my mental self. Some of them used the time that was down to continue to train, even though you couldn't go to the gym. They were finding different ways to train. Right. May they have some weights or different avenues, like Kirby Wackerman was lifting goats. Right. Okay. And things of milk. Yeah. If you will. So you gotta, be innovative. But there was another aspect where, you know what, my character, my gimmick, if you will, not really feeling it, or I'm thinking back and I'm hearing what the fans have been giving me or not giving me. Right. So now they've changed and evolved their character, their gimmick, their names have possibly even changed over the course. So it's been a thing, Yes, it's very negative and the world was upside down, but in the same token, some of these boys and girls, they really thought about things and spun it around, if you will. Some have lost a lot of weight. I mean, look at Wrecking Ball Legursky nowadays. I mean, come on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it closed something,
but the door has reopened, and it's a different element, positively, hopefully.
Now, this is seemingly going to bring me right into my next question, because the current status of the local scene right now is, I think, even more flourishing than pre-COVID, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Don. I was thinking about that and counting the number of promotions within the greater area of Springfield, Massachusetts, which includes northern Connecticut. Okay? We have, believe it or not, and I'm going to name them off, and you can use your fingers as a pointer. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Blitzkrieg,
Gotcha.
which is run by Jeremy Leary. Mr. Leary has had a vision where he brought wrestling for the first time ever into the mall in downtown Springfield about a month ago, I believe it was, and it was a success. And Leary has this trend in promoting where he secures well-known talent within New England and brings them in. Battlefront Extreme with Dan Gore running it. They had a show last Saturday at the Elks in Ludlow, which I was going to attend, but don't eat Mexican food because it doesn't go well.
I am sorry to hear that. We don't like to hear those kind of stories. But if I may pause this real quick.
Yes, sir.
Two Buff put me in the Buff clutch.
Oh, real?
In the middle of the ring while Buff Dad pointed at me. It was a nightmare. My back is still jacked. It's not good, but I have a
Tylenol if you want some.
We might. Okay. I don't know. Maybe a little stronger than Tylenol.
Okay, well, I got plenty. Okay. Anyways, going back to Dan Gore and his promotion, Extreme Wrestling. They had a show this past Saturday, a week ago today.
Tons of fun.
And they drew about 250, which was good, considering the show prior did probably about half that. So that's building up. And Dan Gore brings in talent from various aspects, along with a core of local talent.
Yes.
The original Battlefront was to more to my liking than the Battlefront Extreme. I'm not an extreme wrestling guy, but I'll go into that a little later on. Test of Strength with Slick Wagner Brown continues to run in northern Connecticut and now in parts of South Connecticut, from what I understand.
Yes,
and everything. And he has a good crew, and he's a Killer Kowalski student and continues that. Now, the interesting part that on a local scene is the arrival of a new promotion, and that is Sgrine Pro Wrestling.
Oh, yes.
That debuted with a full house in East Hampton, Mass. At the Polish Club. And they have another show coming up in Northampton on November 20th, I believe.
I believe that is the correct date.
At the Elks in Northampton. And that is promoted by Tomahawk, A.K. Calvin, and his other ring name is
Rick Bison.
Rick Bison. Thank you, sir.
I could never call him by his shoot name. It would make me feel so weird.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, and he has brought in an array of talent that many of the talents have not seen action here in Western Mass and Northern Connecticut ever, with the exception of a few. I'm looking forward to attending one of his shows.
Nice. Moving
closer to home is New Age Wrestling, which is run by Richard Blake, which has had an eruption within the promotion. The local crew that was associated with Mr. Blake, and that was, I would say, 8 guys, packed up and left, and only one remains, and Eric Rosa was the leader of the crew to leave, and he has started his own group called Bay State Championship Wrestling, which is in name only at this point because they have no venue, no ring, or anything, but on paper it's Bay State Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
There's 2 more groups in the area. And you'll have to get your Spanish American dictionary out, probably. HAWA, which is Hispanic American Wrestling Association by Rene, and I can't think of his last name offhand, has restarted after a split with News, which was New England Wrestling Superstars. Both those groups are Hispanic groups. However, they do have some non-Hispanic wrestlers. So that's now the other two promotions under one umbrella is in hiatus, as far as I understand, and that's Pioneer Valley Pro Wrestling and Western Mass Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
My understanding is that the promoter Justin Tunis has taken a retirement, whether that's permanent or semi-retirement, I don't know. But when he did promote, he definitely had a core of good talent.
Yes.
Some of his maneuvering in promotional areas was not to my liking, which separated me from him. But I think he had a vision, and I think he is on hiatus at this point. Whether he is going to resurrect or not, we don't know.
I've asked myself because I was curious, and I'm not really sure myself at this point.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention something with the list of promotions you mentioned. I love that you did that. That is amazing, first off. Second off, with the split of the HAWA and News here,
right?
NEWS had their last show not too long ago. And Yusef 13, right? Yusef 13, right? Yusef 13 became the new NEWS champion, and then they kind of folded.
It petered out.
Yeah, but Yusef still has that championship. He's the champion.
Well, from what I understand, and this is what I've learned through the grapevine, one of the guys who was involved with News, he and a number of the other guys left and hooked up with Renee, and they had a show maybe about 3 weeks ago at the Clarion in West Springfield. Prior to that, News was just running up the street from me at the VFW.
Right.
So I don't know what the whole status is.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about News, I'm going to be critical here. You don't have your ring announcer also be your referee or vice versa.
Wait, what?
The referee at 2 shows, they did not have a ring announcer. They used a referee as ring announcer.
Oh, wow.
So that is a thumbs down.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to promote professionally, not haphazardly.
I can agree with you on that one. So yes.
And it's just to me it just shows a lack of organizational skills.
And one more point is they always had this production value that they've tried to bring to the table with the camera. Have you ever seen this footage, sir?
No, I've never seen the footage.
Never.
I've seen the filming of it on several occasions. It looks like Class A equipment.
It does.
And the company that does it, they have logos on their I can't remember. Hot Shot videos or whatever. And it's interesting you mentioned that. Someone told me that the promoter doesn't own the footage, but the video company does.
Oh.
Which is kind of interesting, but I think that might be wrong. Because what would they do with it?
Right.
Yeah,
You would want the product out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't mean to stay on that topic.
No, but I'm happy you brought that up because I wanted to mention that to people that are involved in wrestling and everything. If you're running a show and everything, you have to have talent, you have to have a ring announcer, and you have a referee. You can't have a referee and ring announcer in one persona. They got to be separate.
I've never seen that before.
Neither have I.
Wow.
I've seen it twice by the same promoter. There's always signs out there. Help wanted. Ring announcer.
the current status of wrestling right now has such an array of talent, but it's different than what Mr. Burke is used to. I am quite sure. Please talk to us about the talent on the scene nowadays, if you could, sir.
Well, that's going to be a little difficult because I haven't been to a show since COVID.
Okay.
So, but I can only reflect on what I saw prior
Okay.
to COVID and everything. I'm hoping to go to the show tonight at Holyoke.
Yes, I'll be there, my man. I'll be
You're
there.
gonna move the camera?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So I will recognize you with the camera.
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes I have senior moments.
That'll be me.
That'll be you. Okay, with hat or without?
Without.
Okay. Anyways, getting back to the talent locally here that I have enjoyed. Nuka, I think, is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And he has evolved. When I first saw him as a youngster and everything, he's up in Maine. I think he might be a champion in Maine.
He is a champion.
Yeah,
He's an IC champion
in Maine.
And Vacation Land.
Vacation Land, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I went to Maine once in my life, to the Moxie Festival.
Oh,
that was fun.
Wow,
Anyways,
that's awesome.
it was a non-wrestling weekend, but we had a hell of a time. Anyways, Nuka is very good. The gentleman you just mentioned a bit earlier. 13. And the gentleman and my name, I'm having a freaking senior moment with the ghost, you said. Whipperman.
Wackerman.
Whipperman, Wackerman. He's good. He's good. Yeah. A person who has not been on the local wrestling scene for a while, but I've been in contact with him, and he plans to re-enter the wrestling scene locally in 2022 is Nick Curry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I hope to see Nick. We have other great talents in the area and everything, and it's going to evolve. Mm-hmm. Give it time. Mm-hmm. And you want to ask the comparison, the talent today from my time when I was a young guy.
It's very different.
It's completely different. I say that in the sense that not to disparage the local talent or talent, the wrestlers of today, but if you look at the wrestling talent and also the audience, they are all MTV generation. They are not geared for wrestling as it was when I was younger and everything. It's more of boom, 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 high spots, extreme wrestling type stuff and everything. You won't. You would hear the chant, boring, if two wrestlers were in the ring and they started doing chain wrestling. That's my opinion. I may be wrong on that, but unless they're geared up for that, that is the mentality of the fans today, sad to say.
Nowadays, you do get some of that.
Yeah.
Because they are trying to maybe work a chin lock, and the fans want to see some crazy flippy
maneuver.
stuff.
And we're going to get into that a little later on. Okay. So, shall we continue, Don?
We shall, because right now we've already mentioned that wrestling is probably more flourishing than ever. You've already mentioned a new promotion that has come in, being Grind Pro. You've also mentioned a promotion that has gone away, being NEWS. There are many promotions in this area, if you will. Do you feel that there's a stranglehold with any certain promotion or anything like that, or is it too saturated? Maybe is the word.
We could be getting into an area where it is becoming a stranglehold. That there's so much going on because it's a talent base where the talent has to figure out where they're going to go,
exactly,
who they're going to work for, and also is the promoter going to stiff them as in news. That was the other thing. The ring announcer / referee duly informed me he did not get an envelope.
Oh, wow.
But if that's the case, and you're only drawing zip amount of people, and that's the other thing too, and talking about news again, because that's the example I'm going to use. I went to several of their shows. I don't think they ever had more than 70 people at the show and everything. And in order for the ring rental, the building rental, and everything, it's money doesn't grow on trees.
That's for sure.
So it's a big expense.
Right.
Big expense. But I think when you get involved in situations like that the talent really has to look at what it is. Are you doing this as a showpiece, as your hobby, non-profit hobby, or are you doing this to start a career or attempting to start a career? I've always had this discussion with some of my older friends. Not that I'm young than anymore either, but my peers that have followed wrestling and everything. And we look at the independents as semi-pro wrestlers in the sense that this is not their livelihood. They're doing this for a passion. They're doing this for someone to increase their career, to capitalize on it, and maybe eventually move on. Anthony Green's a prime example.
Exactly.
Who's an awesome talent. I think, as a matter of fact, Awesome Green was on that show that Jeremy Leary ran in Springfield.
Okay.
And Anthony and I were supposed to get together, but I had a family emergency and I had to cancel going to the show and not meeting up with Anthony. But Anthony Sgrine is one of the superior talents in the wrestling area in New England, and overall he was with AWE. He's a good talent.
Now, since you brought him up as an example, he gets picked up in NXT under Uncle Vinnie Mac, right?
Right.
They changed his name from... They actually used his name, Anthony Green, one time, displayed and everything for a match, okay? The next time, he was August Gray. His Twitter has changed. His Instagram has changed. Everything is August Gray.
Yeah.
You have to roll with the punches when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Then he was in a thing with Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher was smacking him around a little bit for a couple weeks. Then he ends up on 205 Live. He's being used there regularly week after week. Okay?
Right.
All of a sudden, he's part of the releases with WWE, and here we are.
Yeah.
And now Anthony Green is back on the scene, along with many others, because ROH right now has taken a hiatus from January to April, and they've released everybody on their contracts.
Yeah. I don't understand their thinking.
I don't know what's going on there.
And getting back to Anthony Green for a minute, Anthony Green also, before he hooked up with NXT, he was running shows too up in Gardner, Mass.
Ground Zero One USA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And Anthony to me he's a step back to old school wrestling. When he used to be on PvP and be in a dressing room, we would talk, and he always wanted, he loved wrestling history. I love you, Anthony, if you see this, but he wanted to talk wrestling history. He was my kind of guy and everything. And not, well, what's your music? Yeah, that's not my bag, but, whatever. But getting back to your question, the talent today, there's good talent out there. There's mishy-mash talent, and there's people in there that shouldn't even be in the ring. One of the guys says to me at PvP one time, he said, Tom, do you think back in the day that we could have got booked in a regular promotion? And I looked at everybody, and I said, you know what? Everybody in this room tonight could all be booked in the NWA promotion of Nick Lewis in Tennessee. Because Nick would take anybody and not pay him. All right, let's continue on, my friend.
And before we move on, I want to just pull out one more talent.
Absolutely.
Do you see what's going on with Christian Casanova nowadays?
No.
Christian Casanova now is Carmelo Hayes. He was signed to NXT, gone through the Performance Center, came up through him, Josh Briggs, along with a couple others, all came in on the same class. They had a breakout tournament. Whoever won that tournament got a shot at a championship, being the North American Championship.
Oh, okay.
which is on NXT.
Uh-huh.
Carmelo Hayes / Christian Casanova, don't monetize me, Vinnie Mac, is the current North American champion
Really?
on NXT.
Good for him.
And I just wanted to bring that up to you because you mentioned Anthony Green, and they were kind of that same class coming up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that at you.
Yeah.
Now, the Springfield scene is obviously, and surrounding, has many promotions as we were just speaking of. But how different, compared to the time now, how different was it back then, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Well, let's just go right back to the beginning.
Oh, wow, the beginning. Is that like AD, like 10 AD or something?
No, we'll go that far.
Okay.
I'm 75, but I'm not going to go that way.
Okay.
But let's start when I first got bit by the wrestling bug.
Ooh.
I was 12 years old, maybe. Sixth grade, I think, puts you in 12 years old, something like that. And I had no idea it was what was going on. Till one Sunday, I was with a group of my friends, and they were all talking about wrestling. And I said, oh, it's on Channel 22 at 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So bingo, I watched it, and that was it. That was it. I just got so absorbed into it. Now, you really have to realize this was black and white TV, and you saw these wrestlers come in the ring that were above average in masculinity, height, goodness, and evil. I remember one of the matches, a tag team match with Mr. Hito and Mr. Moto. Mr. Moto became a well-known promoter and booker for American Talent going to Japan years later. And they were wrestling two enhanced talents, and they were beating the crap out of them. They took one of the kids, undid the laces of the canvas, rolled him up, and started pounding on him.
What?
And Mark Lewin and Don Curtis come running out to save the day, and of course that starts the big feud. But I mean, you're so absorbed in this, And then Killer Kowalski was on the show, and he used to have a maneuver. We're all famous with the Kowalski Claw. He also had another maneuver, which I don't believe is being done today, and I hope it isn't. He used to do a knee drop off the top rope on a guy's neck.
Holy crap!
And he did that for many, many years without injuring anyone.
Wow.
I don't think the timing would never happen today. The expertise of how to land and everything, I think that there'd be a stretch of bodies today, which we're going to get into a little later on. But back in the day when I was a young kid, and my dear father got me a Christmas gift in 1959 for my first wrestling show. And that was at the Holyoke Valley Arena, which has burnt down, sad to say. But on that show, there were 10 wrestlers. I got to meet 6 of them, and 2 of them became very good friends, Bo Curry and Red Bastien, over the years. And that's how it was, evolved. But that was the main promotion in Springfield area, Holyoke, Springfield. We used to have weekly shows in Holyoke, Mass. On Wednesday nights. The talent was out of Boston, which was the Paul Bowser, Eddie Quinn promotion. And then they would have monthly shows here in Springfield once a month. When Paul Bowser died, Eddie Quinn continued to start promoting with his brother Bob Quinn, who was a local dermatologist here in Springfield, and he was the front man, and he promoted. And then because of Eddie Quinn's association with the family through boxing, he dissolved himself from boxing and wrestling and went on his way. And then Tony Santos came into the area and started to promote again, because he had promoted in the area previously. And he continued from 1962 right up to 1969. in '69, WWF came back on the scene. And in between, we had Antonio Rocca came and had an outdoor show in 1964 at Pinchin Park, which no longer exists, I have to say. And then we had a local Hispanic promotion, Tony Rivera's promotion in 1979, which I was involved with, getting non-Latino talent. And Diamond Dallas Page had his second match here in Springfield.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But and then there was a split between the Latino guys and blah blah blah, and that broke off. And that so now we have WWE, and we've had NWA up here. We had Big Time Wrestling, Terry Allen's group up here, and then the Source of Independence that I mentioned earlier. So all good stuff.
Now, I know, listening to the dates, the years in between, it's definitely not like nowadays, because we've already mentioned, when you spoke earlier, you were mentioning the Blitzkriegs and the Grind Pro and the list of promotions. You would never see anything like that back in the day, because it was so different. It was a territorial thing and all of that. So it wasn't like it was.
No. And then if and when a group would show up, they would be Mavericks and Outlaws. And there's an array of stories. And Fred Curry was telling me this, that there was a gentleman who would be used by various promoters to come in and take care of opposition. Do you have a match? That's all I'm saying.
A receipt, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. But he was well known. Sparky was well known within the wrestling community. Not here, but down south and in the Midwest.
Right.
But that was the element. But wrestling in general, not only here, but all over the United States and Canada, there was always oppositional groups and everything. How long they lasted was short term, basically.
A question that's not in my chicken scratch. You mentioned when you turned on the TV, you just got like so sucked into wrestling. Was it the characters? Was it the size of the men? You spoke of the masculinity. What really?
I think everything.
Oh, the whole package.
The whole package.
Yeah.
It was just craziness, Oh, and you have to remember that back in the day, we just got out of World War II. I was born in 1946, so World War II was really fresh. My dad was a World War II vet in the Pacific, so you have these Japanese guys, pounding on these poor American kids, and Mark Luna and Don Curtis come running out. It's just amazing. Then of course you had the opposite side. You had Karl von Hess, the evil Nazi, coming out, and I remember him on an interview that was out of Washington, D.C. We used to get wrestling from Washington, D.C. on whatever station was out of Waterbury on a snowy Thursday night. I'd watch it, and I remember this distinctly. They was doing a promo for his upcoming match with Abe Jacobs, who was a Jewish wrestler. And Karl von Hess says, Mr. Jacobs, make sure your family knows the Kaddish, the prayer of the dead for you Jewish guys. I mean, they couldn't say that today.
No, God.
But that was the of course, they went around all up and down the coast with sellouts. But, that's how it was.
A program with a story.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, cut and dry, correct?
Cut and dry. Yeah, cut and dry.
A program with a story.
Exactly.
It's an easy formula.
It is, yeah.
Now, I have Return of Wrestling from Your Youth. I don't know why I wrote that. I don't know what the hell it means. but I wanted to make sure I asked you because I jotted down a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So I'll just repeat, return of wrestling from your youth.
Well, when I matured into a so-called adult, I guess, and I returned from my military service in 1969. I was stationed in Germany from 66 to 69 for 3 years, never coming home. Instead, would take my vacation time and travel around and watch wrestling in England, Germany, France, Belgium.
Was it hard to find wrestling?
Oh no, because I had a network of correspondents.
Oh wow!
And they would tell me what was going on, and luckily, through the good graces of Lou Eskin from Wrestling Review magazine, he sent me a press pass, and I was able to get access. And of course, they were hungry for that.
Mm.
And I met Billy Robinson for the first time in '67. In Bradford, England, and I met Billy over the years, who, in my opinion, was one of the most phenomenal wrestlers, real wrestlers in the business and everything, on the equal plane of Danny Hodge and Lou Thez, you know.
Wow.
But Nick Bockwinkel is another too. But anyways, getting back to that, when I returned home after seeing all this British and European wrestling and seeing the product that was being promoted, which I was enthralled with in my youth, I had second thoughts.
Oh, wow.
But not second thoughts in a saying, well, I'm going to wash my hands and go on. Right. I continued and everything. And
it was so different because of what you've been watching.
Yeah. Because in Europe, they emphasize more of a science of wrestling. And with the showmanship.
Right.
You know, I when I wrote the article for Wrestling Review on Gustav Kaiser's promotion, I said it's 10% showmanship and 90% wrestling. And as a matter of fact, that article was translated into the German wrestling magazine, whatever it was. Nice. And anyways, make a long story short, that was my education on European and German wrestling and everything. And when I came back to the States, it was a lot different. But the drive was still there. Right. And then I got more involved in writing articles and doing whatever and everything. So, you know, I didn't divorce myself from it. The enthusiasm was there. Maybe not the youth enthusiasm, saying, gee, that's real. But, you know, whatever, you know.
We've talked contrasts of wrestling of nowadays, wrestling from back then. Like, I grew up with the Bob Backlunds and the Don Moroccos. Don Morocco's my favorite. He could be heel face, and you could believe anything he's doing. I don't know what ever really attracted to me. I think it was, like you said, it's his look. He was so thick back then. You know, obviously there was a Jimmy Snukas and stuff, but the contrast between then and now is so different. There are very few guys that are still trying to keep the then still alive. And I'm going to pick out one person and say Sean Donovan really sticks out to me personally. Okay. Great promos. He does homages to like Terry Funk with his gear and stuff like this. I love Sean Donovan. Do you think it could ever maybe bleed back into the modern day of wrestling, some of those storytellings and the psychology of the then?
I think it could. Maybe not overwhelmingly. It's a vision, but you have to have a visionary to do that, and that visionary has to be a dual visionary of the wrestling promoter and the wrestler.
And the wrestlers, yes.
Because if you don't have that together in sync, then it's not going to go. Because you remember, the guy that's behind and everything is the promoter. And he's the one that puts out the capital, etc., and gets the right talent. But if you get the right talent and have the same vision, I think it could be done. You know, whether it could be done on a national scale, that's another issue. But maybe locally and everything, it could be done.
And I think that's why Billy Corrigan brought NWA back to
Right.
like some throwback status.
Right.
The podium alone, sir, it just screams back then.
Nostalgia.
I see Ric Flair and I see Dusty Rhodes walking out instead of, maybe Nick Aldis. I see Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes coming out and cutting a promo. Magnum TA. I see these guys just standing there at that podium, and I don't see Nick Aldis. I don't see some of these Aaron Stevens and some of these guys, which I'm appreciating, and I get that.
Yeah.
But NWA really does throw that back.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the only place that I see that.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think the end, Corrigan, he was at the Cauliflower Alley a number of times.
Okay.
And everything, and shared his vision.
Mm-hmm.
But his vision is what you had just said and everything. I'm a little downside on the current situation. It's what's on TV and what's not. I know
Right.
McMahon is on TV,
Mm-hmm.
AWE, and everything. Corrigan is still on cable. Is that it, or
He's on. I think it's a pay thing now for $10. It's a $9.99 thing.
okay.
So they have their own gig going on.
Oh, okay. Hey, and then there's Beyond. What is it? The one that was down in Nashville. That had a cable system. What was that?
The Impact?
Impact.
Yeah, Impact is still going. They're on TV. They get, if anything, they get about 150,000 viewership a week.
Oh, okay.
But they still run. They've mixed up their roster many a time. They've gone like indie scene and bled that into because they were up in Canada for a bit, and it like totally screwed everything up. So when they came back to the States, they went over a whole revamp. They never got back their viewership though,
Okay.
But they are still around though.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
That I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's move on, my friend.
Now we are kind of on the topic of TV. Do you even watch the product that's on nowadays?
Occasionally, but not for a long time.
You said that with a cringe at the beginning too.
Well, if Law and Order is on, I'm switching to Law and Order. But I'll watch it for a little while and everything. And, there's so much talking and talking.
I know.
Talking. I mean, I can understand what they're doing, trying to build something.
The setups.
But give it to a limitation of a few minutes, not 20 minutes or 15 minutes. I mean, that just doesn't go well with me.
I do feel there's way too much fluff.
Exactly, yeah. Fluff is a good word for it. I could use another word, but it's a family program.
And that's kind of incorporated into the mainstream, especially, obviously, WWE. That's what their formula, their format. Impact, they have their own things with, their vignettes and the cinematography stuff and all of that. But I will say on that point though, when I go to a local show, and again, I know we have to speak sometimes and get our stories out, but if you're at an indie show, and I'm not pointing blame on anybody, and I'm not saying that this specific company does this or not, but because you have spoken Blitzkrieg. But if there's 8 matches, do we have to hear 4 promos?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
Can we just maybe get 2 in there and move it along?
Yeah.
If you have to tell a story for every single one, pick and choose for that show. Maybe bleed it to the next one or whatever.
Yeah.
I just feel at indie shows, too many promos is just like, why are we doing this?
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's what drives you away from the TV product, and not just you. Believe me, not just you.
I was discussing this with George Shire, who is another long time friend of mine, a wrestling historian, an expert of AWA wrestling, and George is in my ballpark age-wise, and he says he doesn't even bother watching it. And I know other people in the same category that grew up on wrestling and, have no interest in it whatsoever. I continue to keep a look, maybe not weekly, maybe once a month I'll put it on, see what's going on. And that's only for a little time period.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not watching Raw for 3 hours.
I mean, back in the day, you could ask me who the champions were, and I could run off the names of the champions and everything. Today, I don't even know who the champs or who the talent is. That, to me, you know, and I'm not the only one in my realm.
But you know what? And I want to kind of piggyback on that. It's not even your age group that you've mentioned 2 or 3 times right here. I talk to wrestlers that don't even watch the product.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because they just can't.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for the reasons you speak of, and more other reasons. But it just astonishes me. It really does. Not only as a guy who's interviewing a talent, but as a fan. Some wrestlers don't watch wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But being the mainstream product I'm speaking
well, you
about.
know, this is going to shock some people. That's not a trend for today. Vern Gagne never watched his TV show.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Wow.
But then again, he had people in power, associates, that were involved in that and everything.
They were his watchdogs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, he did something with Vern Gagne. I think he could stretch you out in a minute.
Me personally, probably about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
All done.
Yeah,
I would tap before he would finish putting it on.
Exactly, yeah.
We spoke of hardcore wrestling, and you kind of almost had like a disdain, if you will, for hardcore. Please, let's jump into the hardcore thing.
Okay, on hardcore, hardcore has a place in small quotes to a degree, but not to the point where it causes physical injury. There was an incident just 3 weeks ago in Denver where a young man who was 26 years old flew off the balcony. His name was Austin Ramos. Landed wrong. He's paralyzed from the neck down.
Wow.
His life is basically almost ruined, per se.
Right.
And whether they'll be able to secure rehabilitation and get him moving again, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But my question here is, on the hardcore element, when you're thinking about that, do you really have to see the long range picture of it? That is this worth doing something in front of 125 people for $50, $40, when your whole life may be ruined? Mm-hmm. For anybody out there watching, if you're a wrestler and you're doing hardcore, really stop and think about it. You know, what's the outcome of future adventures? Your life. Mm-hmm. That's important. You know, not hearing, oh, wow, from 100 fans and a $40 payoff, and you're paralyzed for the rest of your life.
And especially when you have a livelihood besides that wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, but you know, hardcore does have a place, wrestling, within limitations and everything.
It is, and I've spoken of the art forms of wrestling, because it's not just wrestling. There's the hardcore, there's the deathmatch, and there's many other art forms of wrestling, and that just happens to be one of them. Now, I know you are so involved in wrestling in many different aspects, and obviously a writer. But were you just always a writer?
No. I first started in high school as a writer, doing a newsletter, and through Nat Lubay from Ring Wrestling Magazine, I did a column when I was 16 or 17 called The Wrestling Beef for Ring Wrestling Magazine, and I started doing that and had a long list of correspondence. Today we have the internet, where you have all your friends online and everything, and you can talk to somebody in Baltimore. You can talk to someone here or there just by hitting the keys. Back in the day, it was on a typewriter or longhand, and the post office system was in the green then. Thank you. Anyways, I became a writer. I got more involved. I loved history, not only wrestling history, but history in general and everything. And I got involved in that. I did ring announcing. I did booking talent for various individuals. I was associated with Bull Hefner's promotion in South Africa. I sent Mike Shaw there. I did the IWE, which was in Japan.
Mhm.
I sent a number of talent there. I worked with Lou Thez when Lou Thez did his Middle East tour. I was able to get him some talent for that. And some of the Kowalski boys I had booked in various places. And I also did a stegma as a manager myself.
And we have spoken of such managerial
Managerial.
duties that you've done.
Yes, I was known. It's a Sergeant Schultz moment in my life.
I've wanted to get back into this because it's been so long. So please.
I was known as Ludwig von Spicer. Yes. Let me tell you something right now. You think you're a wrestler? You're nothing. I have a wrestler I'm bringing in all the way from Korea. Not a German wrestler, but a Korean wrestler. And this Korean wrestler is known as Kim Solo. And he is going to be appearing soon to destroy you weaklings. But that's the idea.
What brought him to life?
Well, I wanted to do a managerial thing and talking about it. And I said, I lived in Germany for 3 years, and my very good friends that I was in the army with live out based. He was a married couple, him and his wife Sarah, with their 2 beautiful little boys at the time, and they lived in this town called Spicer, which was right outside our base, and we used to go there all the time and everything, and have cookouts and a lot of fun and everything. So I said, I want to get a name. So I said, Ludwig von Spicer. That's it. And that's how it came. Now, Ludwig von Spicer will make a comeback. I've been in negotiations with one promoter locally.
Oh, wow.
And we may be in the ring with Kim Solo.
Oh, wow.
Or whoever else. But that's the story there.
Wow. So Spicer might not be done just yet.
Oh, he's not done yet.
Oh, wow.
He won't be done till he's 6 feet under. And then he may come back.
I wanna kind of spin back to, you mentioned the WWF. Yes, kids. WWE used to be called WWF back in the day. Let's talk about some of the talent between the WWE. Now I'm mixing them up.
We do it this way down. Do it this way. Triple W,
yes.
Triple W and WWE.
Yes. Give us some of your faves, some of the ones that really caught your eye.
Yeah, who I like in WWF was a long-standing wrestler with them who never got to the high point of the main event, but he was always on the cards, and the word on the street was he was the policeman for the organization. Johnny Rodge. The incredible Johnny Rodge is totally incredible. He had a stint in California and I believe in Hawaii as Java Rook. But Johnny was very, very good. He still has a wrestling school in New York.
He does.
We were there. Oh God. Ross Hart and I went there maybe about 10 years ago, I guess.
Oh wow.
Okay. Visited him there and everything. But Johnny was always a good man, very dedicated to the business, a true asset to the sport. I always enjoyed his matches, and he's one of the guys. Arnie Scone was another guy too, who of course was the manager of Bruno Sammartino in quotes, and also Bob Backlund in quotes. But he was a steady hand, and even some of the lower echelon guys, Pancho Valdez, Joe Turco, Moose Borowski, all good hands, you know.
I want to kind of go back to Johnny Rodge just for a minute.
Sure.
Our local scene, like we were speaking, is very flourishing. Johnny Rodge has a school, as you mentioned. Out of that school, all at the same time, they came out like floodgates opened up. There's a few guys I'm going to mention. Prince Ahmed, Jay Bougie. I like to mess with that kid. Something fierce. Oh my goodness. PJ Savage, and a tag team called the Faceless Ones. Jocko and Face. They've all come out of Johnny Rodge School. And let me tell you, sir, they've been spreading their wings around us, and my goodness, there's some stars right there.
That's good.
Yeah, there's definitely some stars.
I know, like, Johnny Rodge, an old hand. He came up through the ranks and everything. He started with Argentina Rocka's group back in 83. I'm sorry, 63. God almighty, Burke, wake up. 63, you know. Oh, and then he eventually went to Capital Wrestling, which was WWF, and been with them for years, you know. But definitely a great hand, a great mind, and a superb trainer, you know.
Now, I'm sure you have probably, I don't know, 1.7 trillion stories that you could tell us, but we're limited time here. So I'm going to ask, what was the strangest incident that you've kind of...
Okay, I'm happy you brought that up. It was 1975, I believe, or 76. And I was up in Burlington, Vermont, attending a wrestling event. And the next night was Nashville, New Hampshire. So I was traveling with Chris Coate, Bonnie, who wrestled as Jungle Jane, Yagi, the great Yagi, a Japanese wrestler. And we were going from Burlington, Vermont to Nashville, New Hampshire. Bonnie was driving. In the back of the vehicle was myself and Yagi, and Bonnie and Chris was on the other side. And there was a passing of homemade cigarettes, shall we say.
Oh, okay.
But prior to our leaving Burlington, we got gas, and Bonnie asked the attendant, this was before we had gas jockeys, she asked him to check the oil. So the kid lifts up the hood, checks the oil, puts the oil in, closes it down, says, "You're okay." So we're on our way, we're traveling, having a great time. The smoke is getting filled in the car.
Homemade cigarettes.
Yeah, thank you. We're going down a mountain. The wind comes up. The young man did not push the hood down all the way to... The hood popped up.
Oh, no.
Bonnie's driving. Moves it to the side, thank God. Car was undrivable then.
Oh, no.
Luckily, behind us was Nick DiCarlo. So we outpiled in his car and went to Nashville for the wrestling show. That was the scariest moment of my life in wrestling. And it was also my last time having any homemade cigarettes.
That was a one and done for you, huh?
That was it. That was it. Had done it prior, but not. That was it. Goodbye, Mary Jane.
Well, speaking of said topic, we've seen the government actually get involved in WWF at one point because of the steroid thing that was going on. Was that the drugs, or and not just steroids in general, but just drugs? Was that a common practice back in the day?
Back in the 70s, the only drugs I ever saw utilized was pot.
Oh, okay.
That I never saw anything stronger than pot. But when I had got Terry Funk booked for Otto Vance in Germany, and Otto says he's a nice guy, but he likes that wacky tobacco. or something of that nature. But but that was it. But that's the only thing I ever saw. I never saw the hardcore stuff, the hard drugs. No, even if it was out there, it might have been Big Daddy Lipscomb from the 1960s, who was a well-known football player who turned wrestler. He overdosed on heroin, I believe, or cocaine or something. But, not as he had left wrestling and had issues. So I'm sure there were other issues going on that I was unaware of.
Right. I kind of the curiosity had me because of, nowadays there's like, there's a lot of options when it comes to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Now there's something I haven't, because I don't really, to be honest with you, totally honest with you, I don't watch a lot of TV, if any. Much. I used to, but over the past probably 10 years, I just kind of weaned away from television. I don't know what it is. Movies and stuff. I mean, I haven't seen so many, and people say, you haven't seen blah, 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 blah. But there's been a thing, The Dark Side.
Dark Side of the Ring.
Out on A&E, if I'm not mistaken. And it seems to have some really, really crazy feedback, good and more good than bad, obviously. But I see memories have been brought up from a lot of the talent and stuff. Are you watching that?
Dark Side, I watched it. They had their last episode for this season this past Thursday on the steroids and Hogan and McMahon. I have been watching it since it started. I think it's a fabulous show. It's an enlightenment in regards to some things that I'm sure many others were unaware of. I would like to comment on one of the episodes that took place on this season.
Okay.
And elaborate on that.
Sure, please do.
Chris Kanyon.
Okay.
Who was the gentleman who wrestled for WWE. And I think he had a segment in WCW too, right?
He did, yes.
Yeah. And, he was well known to be the first gay wrestler, per se, which really is false, because he wasn't, even though probably in the indication he was promoted as such, but there were others prior, which we'll discuss later. But anyways, he had a lot of issues, I think, other than his gayness, the drug scene and all that and everything. Sad to say, he was a victim of an overdose, and everything. And they emphasized that I would like to see a segment on the Dark Side of the Ring on Chris Cole, who I think would be a phenomenal subject. I'd also like to see a segment on Blackjack Mulligan and his son, who served time for counterfeiting money, or not. They weren't counterfeiting money, but they were handling counterfeit money, and other deaths in the ring would be something interesting, and also overdoses in wrestling. They could do a whole segment on that, not specifically on one wrestler, but
in general.
In general.
They could probably do a mini-series on
Exactly. And another segment that I think would be very interesting if they focused on the wrestling promotions of Angelo Poffo and ICW and everything. I think that would be phenomenal. But the Dark Side of the Ring overall has been very, very interesting. I was not thrilled with the one that was telecast a couple weeks ago, XPW out of LA or something. That I couldn't get into that one at all. And
Cornet said he wouldn't watch that one.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Supposedly, the promoter, Jack Black or Joe Black or something like that, was pissed off at one of the wrestlers for not doing something, and he slapped the wrestler. God forbid that ever happened back in the day.
Wow.
That guy would be taken and thrown against the wall and just annihilated by any of the wrestlers back in the day. It's stupid. But this guy here was not he was involved in, I guess, a porn producer or something. His object was not for the promotion of wrestling, in my opinion, but to do away with it, to harm it and everything. But the Dark Side of the Ring has been very good. I enjoyed the segment on Dino Bravo. I enjoyed the segment last week on
Luna.
Hogan.
Luna just came out recently, right?
Luna was very good and everything. Matter of fact, Luna visited this office with her papa, Butcher Vachon, when she was a little girl.
Nice.
And she signed a guest book, which you'll be signing and everything. But she didn't sign as Luna, by the way.
Oh, no.
No. At 10, she didn't have a mohawk when she was 10. Well, anyways. But, that overall, I think Dark Side of the Ring is good.
I've been hearing it's fascinating.
Yeah. One thing I would like to see, and it'll probably never take place, is Ken Burns has done a wealth of historical things on baseball and other issues. I'd love to see someone tackle professional wrestling, but because of the lack of real historical fact, because it's been watered down so much, it would be a trying issue. But that would be interesting, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're right around the corner from 2022. And yes, I said that correctly. 2022.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
We've spoken the differences of then and now. And I know 2022 is just right around the corner, only a few months. And I know a whole lot isn't going to change to the 2022. But do you see anything maybe maybe a throwback coming back? Or do you see wrestling even evolving into a different form of any kind in 2022 and into the future? Where do you see wrestling coming in the near future here?
Well, I think wrestling in 2022 is going to continue to emerge as it has since the COVID and everything. I'm wondering, as others are, about the future for WWE.
Yes.
There's all kinds of rumors that it's going to be bought out, blah, 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 by other corporate entities that are involved in broadcasting. Disney was mentioned at some point and other things, whether that takes place or not. And if it does, what control does McMahon have on that, or the family?
Right.
I don't know, but I think wrestling will continue. I'm hoping that it will continue in such a way that we see some more wrestling rather than showbiz and everything. But that's not up to me. That's my wish and everything.
And I know we're down to the tail end, and I haven't rechecked my footage. And if we've recorded this all for nothing, I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah.
So let me just double check real quick. We are still rolling along here.
Oh, that's good.
Goodness.
Good.
And to wrap this up, because I've been wondering, because I haven't seen you in a while, Mr. Burke. You have done some auction stuff, and I noticed there's an empty space up there, my friend. Look at that smile of yours.
Yeah.
There's an empty space that I've noticed. And before I ask you this last question, what happened and why is that vacant up there, my friend?
Well, I had if you go on the net, someone posted something on the site, The Strangest Stories of Wrestling.
Okay.
And I have number one slot because I had the ownership of the Paige Morrell's WWF Belt.
Okay.
And which was actually a fact, and many will attribute that. And John Arezzi posted that he commented that about on his biography that was just released a couple months ago. Anyway, I acquired the WWF belt in a consignment shop, and I had it for many, many years. And I was getting ready to retire, and a gentleman had been bugging me to sell it. And like the movie in The Godfather, there's a comment, an offer you can't refuse. He offered me something, and I said, thank you.
Wow.
It's yours.
Very cool.
So that's it. That's it.
Very cool.
But overall, getting back to my auctions, they're on my Facebook page. I'm currently off right now because of a scanner issue. But I do daily auctions, and the stuff that's in my auctions are basically not from the shrine, but surplus stuff.
Wow.
And I just got so much. You have to remember, I'm 75, and I've been collecting since I was 12. So you do the math.
Wow.
You know,
there's a lot of stuff that can accumulate.
You got that right. Yeah.
I'm gonna end this because again, my curiosity. I haven't seen you in a while, and who knows when you're at the age of 75, as Mr. Burke is. Do you have anything in the future? You got any projects going on? Do you have anything in the works?
I'm constantly working on the history of wrestling in my local area, the greater Western Massachusetts area. How far that will go, whether it be published or not, I don't know. Sometimes I can do it, boom, boom, boom. I can work on it for all week long, and then all of a sudden, there's a dry spell.
Yeah.
And I just can't get motivated.
I hear that.
My good friend Scott Teal from Crowbar Press has been bugging me about doing something. But you have to have the initiative and the drive.
And the drive, yes.
You know, and sad to say, I don't have to drive as much as I used to.
Exactly.
But anyways, it was. This was fun, Don.
Oh, this was amazing.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
But before we begin, you got to sign the guest book?
Oh, we have to. Yes, we have to. This was a little more informational because we went by a little format instead of my stupid brain.
Your brain is awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, look at this.
I would like you to date it, sign it, and your commentary.
I mean, just, and I know if I flip through these pages, I'm sure I could see many a name, but I am going to, my name is going right after Q the ref. I love Q.
Q is a total throwback to how a referee should be.
Yes.
Total throwback.
Q.
Love Q.
Oh my goodness. What is the date today? We're the
30th.
30th.
Yeah.
Holy
March
cow.
the 31st, Halloween tomorrow.
Wow. Well, I am signing Mr. Burke's book right under Q the ref. That is awesome. And people, please stop calling him Ref Q. That's not his darn name. It's Q the ref. It's not Ref Q. Just saying.
Absolutely.
That pisses me off.
Q the ref is great.
Wow, look at this. Do I sign it in print? Do I do...
Oh, whatever you want to do, my friend.
You know what?
It's up to you.
It's just like signing a beautiful...
Just leave a check and I'll fill in.
Yes, I'll put 00 blank. Let's see, remarks. The only remark I have is, I love Tom Burke. I mean, come on. Yes, that is beautiful. I got to take a picture of that before I go.
Oh yeah, and I just want to share with everyone out there. Thank you, Don, for coming. It was just wonderful. My shrine is open. Anyone that would like to come and visit, contact me via Facebook. Set up an appointment. We will work on a schedule and everything, but I'm basically free since I'm retired.
Wow.
So anybody that has an interest in wrestling that would really like to see it is more than welcome. I had a great visitor here just recently, Brian Solomon, who is the author of several books, but his big project is coming out in the spring of 2022, the biography on the Sheik, the original Sheik. So that is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Wow.
And then...
Buddy Romano.
Yeah. Okay.
I know me, Buddy Romano.
Yeah. I want to show you while we are here. Some son of a bitch, excuse my French. I had one page all dedicated for wrestlers to sign. and I had someone up here, and they snatched the page. So now people will just sign generally. But I want to show you.
That is not cool.
That's not cool at all.
Aaron Morrison.
Aaron Morrison, yeah. Let's see. Let's see.
Was that Jim Kulik?
Yeah.
That was. Woo!
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find.
Wait, Brett. This is Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bret Hart was here. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Bret Hart was here. Ross Hart was here. Killer Kowalski, Luthez.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Dr. Reginald.
Yes, Hersey.
Good man.
Everybody loves that guy.
Oh,
huh?
I love him. Now there's a guy who was a wrestler and a promoter and everything. He had a vision of promoting. And God bless you, Doc, if you see this, I love you, kid. He asked me to do the commentating on the show, so I was on the commentating. So there's a match going on, and it was with Bobby Ocean, and I can't remember who the other wrestler was. And it happened to be the anniversary of the integration of wrestling of a wrestling match in Houston between a black wrestler and a white wrestler. And I mentioned that on the air. I said, if we all lived in Mobile, Alabama 50 years ago, we wouldn't see a match like this.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's true. Yeah.
It is.
Let's see. Let's see. Kevin
Landry.
Kevin Landry.
Yes.
Terry Allen.
Yes, Terry Allen.
Let's see.
Tajiri.
Yeah, Tajiri. Yeah. Holyoke Joe.
Oh, yes, Holyoke.
Let's see. The late Scott Epstein, who was the editor of a wrestling magazine. I can't think of the name of the magazine. He died in a car crash. Let's see. James Meiter. Bob Van Winkle. Sean O'Reilly.
Nice.
The Kowalski boys.
Yeah.
This was my doctor, Dr. Burns.
You had your doctor sign up?
It was funny. Dr. Burns, who was an older man, he was my doctor, my dad's doctor. So I'm talking to him one day after the exam, and for some reason wrestling came up. Found out he used to be the ringside physician at the Holyoke Valley Arena back in the 40s. Back in the 40s and 50s.
Wow.
So he came up a couple of times.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh.
Let's see. I want to find Royal Duncan. Mark Harris. Brian Hildebrand, who was the WCW referee.
Okay.
Scott Dickinson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Dan Pettiguli, who was Jason the Wolfman Sanderson. Let's see. Patrick Salvis, my buddy Rudy Salvis. Let's see. Scott Darcy. One of my non-favorite people, Wally Yamaguchi. He still owes me $400. Red Bastien, Luthez, and Boyd Pierce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And
all on the same page, too.
Yeah. John Pantone.
Why would some son of a biscuit take that page?
I know.
For real.
Oh, I know. Mr. Peter R. Miller, who was the Mongolian Mahler. Let's see, Kevin Day. Let's see, the late Terry Justice, such a good friend. Kurt Brown, who's Vandal Drummond.
Okay.
And everything. He's on. Are you you listen to 605?
I do not.
Oh, that's Mike O'Hara, Mel Simons. Let's see, the late Lenny Bernstein. Let's see, Kevin. Let's see. Here we go. Paulette Vachon.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's got my mom's name. Are you kidding me?
Really?
My mom's name is Paulette.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Thomas Roberts. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. And that's it, kid. The other pages are blanks, I have to say, because somebody SOB stole the page.
That's good.
And sad to say, most of those guys are gone.
That's gotta burn.
Yeah, but overall, Don, I thank you ever so much.
Oh, absolutely.
For coming, and I hope to see you this evening.
Oh,
if things go right.
I hope to see you this evening.
With a mask or without.
I'll be. I don't know if it's optional over there, so I'm gonna take it with me.
I wasn't referring to that type of mask.
Oh, I was trying to get away from that. I think we're gonna go without.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think without. Yeah, and we're gonna have some fun over at Shut Up and Wrestle.
We sure will. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot.
And you haven't been to the new.
No, I have not been to the new place. No, how is it compared to the old place?
It's smaller. But hear me out. You're gonna have to go down Sargent Street a little bit. You know where the old one was, right?
Right. Yeah.
You just go down Sargent, in front of the old Landry's. Take a left on Sargent Street.
Oh, okay.
You pass the solar panels.
Okay.
And it's your first left. It's a driveway that goes into the back of a building.
Okay.
And you'll see, you can't miss it. There's a bunch of tractor trailers.
Yeah, I'll find it.
But I just wanted to tell you there, because once you get on, if you look at the address, it's kind of weird. It brings you to the solar panels.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
So we want Mr. Burke there.
My friend, thank you.
A pleasure.
It was a pleasure. So what do we do? An hour?
I'm sure that we've done well more than an hour. I'm going to definitely check that.
Okay.
But before I check that, this is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very, very special guest, Mr. Tom Burke. Yes.
Thank you very much, Don. And stir that pot more and more.